Accelerate Alaska, exploring the economic opportunities to unlock a greater future. Hey, did you know that we're having Accelerate Arctic on April 14th at the Acreage Museum? This is going to be part of the big North by North celebration. We will explore tracks like public-private partnerships, deriving value from our coastline, thriving in a changing climate, and northern tourism opportunities. If you haven't yet, go to acceleratearctic.com and get your tickets now. I spent the first 10 years of my life in Fairbanks, Alaska. My parents would host dinner parties to chase the dark winter blues away. Back then, times were different. Voices were louder, drinks were stronger. Guests would sometimes smoke indoors and weren't frowned at. In fact, not having an ashtray was considered rude. As goodbyes were said at the end of the night, I remember looking up at the sky and seeing shimmering greens, yellows, blues, and sometimes reds of the aurora borealis. It was magical, and we took it entirely for granted. I did a Google survey recently, and 26% of U.S. respondents said they would absolutely go on vacation to experience that magic. Deb Hickok of Explore Fairbanks has been nurturing that demand and leading the charge for Fairbanks to become a #1 winter destination. We join her on the winter tourism stage.
Thank you all for hanging in there and allowing me to talk about one of my favorite topics, which is winter tourism. And I'm just going to tell you a story. It's about Fairbanks' story, and hopefully in the course of that, you may be empowered, as we have been. And what it's been is an evolution, and we continue to have this journey, and we continue to evolve all the time. And a lot of it had to do with persistence, so that's what I'm going to talk about. But first of all, why are we talking about winter tourism? And this chart is hotel motel tax collections in the Fairbanks North Star Borough, which includes the cities of Fairbanks and North Pole. Since the 2009 recession, we've been gradually growing in hotel motel tax collections. In the last 4 years, we've had record-breaking collections. And in this shot, it tells the story better, though. If in this graphs, purple is winter and summer is green. And you can see throughout this period, summer's been somewhat erratic, but it's essentially been flat. But winter has grown throughout the period, and that is really what's attributable to all of our growth in hotel motel tax collections. The only example I'm giving you right now, but there's other examples. And this is even more telling graph. This is visitor expenditures year-round in Fairbanks, and if you can see on your far left, lodging only accounts for about 38% of the visitor expenditures in winter, and that's because room rates are a little bit down. We don't have as many rooms open. However, if you look at visitor spending, which is on your far right, you'll see that 45% of the visitor spending happens in winter. So our winter visitor comes to us more as a destination. They're not traveling around the state like our summer visitor is, and they stay longer. We have a higher proportion of international, although the majority of our visitors are domestic visitors. We have a higher proportion of international, and as you know, they also spend more in the state. Why else are we talking about winter? And this is what motivates me personally, and I think our team at Explore Fairbanks. And that's the explosion and the opportunities that winter affords for small business and micro businesses. We have such robust winter product now. It's inspiring. This person, I think, is one of the smartest people in Fairbanks. That's Moke Kumagai. He owns Aurora Borealis Lodge. And he started only as an Aurora business, which means he operates from mid-August to the end of April. And when his kids are off from school, he gets to play with them. So I think he's managed his career very well. So we're going to go back just 20 years. And when I first came to Fairbanks, there was some controversy, I guess, about whether or not we should devote financial and human resources to the winter product. And I have to say, I brought some of my own personal biases to the conversation. My tourism roots were in Pennsylvania. I started in the Poconos, which was a resort region, a ski resort region, and we promoted it to New York City residents as well as Philadelphians. Also, I worked for the state travel office, and at the time, this was our tagline, "Don't hibernate, celebrate," for the winter. So to me, promoting winter was just part of our marketing conversation and promotions. And then I quickly realized that, hey, it was 7 months out of the year in Fairbanks, so I don't get why we're not having this discussion. And then Fairbanks did not come with a blank slate. We knew and had the confidence, and science was behind us, that because of where we are under the aurora oval and because of our clear nights, that we had more of the chances for people to see the aurora. You can see where our competition is. It's those others that are exactly where the aurora oval sits most of the time. So it's other countries around the circumpolar north. And remember, we actually are talking about countries that promote themselves as aurora destinations. The United States does not promote itself as an aurora destination, right? We're out there by ourselves here. So, armed with science and experience, a group of us met for one winter, and we called the series Mush On with Winter Tourism. And we talked not only about how can we develop marketing strategy to grow winter tourism, but how can we grow infrastructure? What do we need to have in terms of infrastructure to grow winter tourism? So there's just some random examples. We decided to cross-sell winter and summer, and that had a degree of clairvoyancy, and that what we've learned over the years is that our summer visitor and our winter visitor are actually buying product around the same time. So they're buying the last quarter of the calendar year and the first quarter of the next year. So cross-selling, influencing that decision all year round has worked well for us because we don't have the resources to do a major campaign for winter. We did invest a little bit of money into a winter guide, and I have some here if you want to take one. And that's just a teaser piece. It's a companion to our visitor's guide, but it shows a lighthearted part of winter. We also added a customer service module to our Alaska host program. It's called Ask Me About Winter. And the idea is we give it to frontline personnel so they respond appropriately, whether it's in summer or winter. What is there to do in winter in Fairbanks? Or sometimes it's like, what is there to do here in winter? So hopefully, and as you know, this is a never-ending job because we're trying to reach the frontline personnel. And as marketers, we had to market to ourselves, right? And to the rest of the visitor industry in Fairbanks. So we created, we didn't want to talk about winter as the off season. We didn't want to talk about it as the shoulder season. And we really wanted to get away from that term tourist season. And to this day, when somebody asks me, how'd the tourist season go? I'll say, oh, do you mean winter tourism or summer tourism? And that helps frame the conversation and change the conversation. So we called it the opportunity season, the power of positive thinking, right? In terms of infrastructure, these are just 3 examples. And the first one is rail. I wanted to step back and say, not in any other part of life, but in sales, and particularly in winter, there's a lot of naysayers, there's a lot of skeptics. So we learn that no means maybe, and maybe means yes. And we have never faltered from that attitude. So we began the conversation about infrastructure development. When we first asked the Alaska Railroad to increase trains in the winter, guess what their answer was? No. Yeah, it was a big no. And it was mostly from an engineering perspective. And they said, oh, our trains aren't winterized and we have no place to put the train or to work on the train in Fairbanks. But Dale told that story. They started with 4 trains and now they're up to, I forget what he said, 38 or something, midweek trains. And then we approached Denali National Park and Preserve. So they're, as you know, they're iconic for us. For summer visitors, we're just over a 2-hour drive from Denali. And we thought, hey, the Marine Science and Learning Center is open. Wouldn't it be great if our visitors could have more access in the park and Denali becomes as important to our winter visitors as the summer? And what was their answer when we asked them to do that? No. And we continued the conversation. At one point in time, our mayor got involved and had a conversation with park personnel. So very cautiously, one year they said, okay, we're going to try. We're going to plow to mile 12 in mid-February. We can't tell you exactly when. It might not work. It's been very successful. As most of you know, pretty soon, if it's not out or ready for public comment, will be the Denali shoulder and winter plan. And so we'll get a first glimpse of that soon. And many of us have had input on it already. Another example is air access. And as mentioned, air access is so important. We already knew in Fairbanks that we had a preformed market of Japanese visitors, and they came to Fairbanks for aurora, hot springs, and winter activities. So we thought, wouldn't it be cool if we got direct charters from Japan? So we approached Japan-based airlines, and what did they say? No. And it was a resounding no. So we went to another airline and we started that conversation. They were no right away, and then they went to maybe. And we had one gentleman that we hosted a number of times, and he was a great guy, but he just couldn't get to yes. And then he moved on in the company. We had a new person. We invited him to Fairbanks. And he said, I have to introduce a new destination every year. I'm going to introduce Fairbanks as a charter destination. So this is the reader board in winter of 2005. And you can see, if you read down here, it says Bangkok, San Francisco, Hong Kong, Vancouver, and then Fairbanks. It was a coup. And it was a coup not because of that 900 souls or so that we hosted that winter, the 747 that came into Fairbanks, but it was a coup in the minds of our visitor industry locally, our local community, and it also gained national attention. Remember, most of our visitors are domestic visitors, so we got great write-ups in New York Times. Hey, if people from Japan can come directly to Fairbanks for winter, so can others. So we've continued to evolve. I think it was mentioned before, the message that you can't see the aurora and the full moon, that's important. People were concerned, our visitor services staff and our business partners would always get the question, what should I wear for winter? I'm so nervous. What should I wear? We created what do you wear for winter video? It's all about the layers, baby. And this is the most recent tool in our toolbox, and Amy Geiger, our Director of Communications, is the audience, and she's executed a number of these projects with her team for us. And this is a widget on our website. It's the most popular part of our website, and it correlates the Geophysical Institute forecast with real-time weather. So in 5 different locations, 4 of them in Fairbanks and 1 in Coldfoot. So people can, in the course of an evening, get a real-time estimate of what their prognosis is for the aurora. So this has become more and more high-tech. And this is a graph that no judgment, it's a work in progress, but this is what we're starting to develop for our sales team. So when they're talking about the seasons, quote unquote, of Fairbanks, which has many nuances, it's not most people's frame of reference. And we talk about our iconic midnight sun with 70 days of sunlight, where we are on the globe in the 64th parallel. We have something called civil twilight that influences that. And then the aurora season, what actually starts, and one of our business partners suggested we give it a date. As you know from Alaskans, it doesn't come on August 21, but it helps with visitor planning. And then we gave it an end date of April 21. The reality is you can see it both times. So the thing is, if you come see the aurora in summer, which our visitors are doing now, this still is summer, even though it doesn't feel like fall. In other people's heads, it is summer. And you can see, you can partake of the summer activities, and then all of winter is part of the aurora season, and we have such robust activities. It looks like there's a little gap, and this is a super popular time in Fairbanks right now for aurora viewers, but you see all those year-round activities that are available to them, even if there's not enough snow for the winter activities, and some of the summer activities have stopped. So this is how our journey is, and we've always believed in the course of our journey that we wanted others, destinations, and businesses around the state to also develop winter product, because we really, really think it's important for the message to go out that Alaska is open for winter, and we're open year-round, and all of you to participate in that, whether you're in Valdez or in Anchorage or in Ketchikan or Kodiak or Kenai. All of you have differential product in the winter, and we invite you to continue the conversation with us. We do have a panel discussion very shortly. It's in the assembly chambers, which I don't know where that is, but you're welcome to join us. And then we do have a workshop where we'll work together and continue the dialogue. So thank you for joining us, and we'll see you in a little bit.
I hope you enjoyed what you heard. If you want to see the presentation with slides and visuals, go to accelerateak.com. Do you enjoy this podcast? If so, go to accelerateak.com to find out how you can contribute, volunteer, or even bring an Accelerate conference to your town. accelerateak.com. This has been an Accelerate LLC production. The future is already here, if you know where to look.